And everyone can see my screen all right? Okay, great. Well, thank y'all so much for being here. I know we have some brand new additions to our Student Basic Needs Guiding Team, and I am very thankful for your willingness to kind of join us. I think that the next 6 months or so are going to be really important for this strategy as we are getting ready to submit our next grant request to the ECMC Foundation and hopefully continue to build on and scale our work. So, hello, Lamont. How are you? Good.
I'm good.
Okay.
How are you?
Great. Here is an agenda for today. Because we have new folks joining the guiding team, I'm going to do a quick kind of update on what is a guiding team for a strategy area at CPE, and talk about some things that are going to be just updates for you, but also welcome feedback and thoughts. And then, of course, I'm going to do a quick status update on our basic needs strategy and strategic populations. And then we're going to hopefully have some time for idea storming around what else and what next for our work in basic needs. But first, I would love if we could go around and just do personal introductions, share a little bit about, yourself, anything that you'd like. This is a great group of partners here, and I know that there's opportunities for partner to partner connections kind of beyond just the statewide work through the collaborative. So I'll go ahead and kick us off, and I probably need to update my name here, but I am Lily Massa McKinley, and I lead our Kentucky Student Success Collaborative and have been doing so since 2021 when we launched. And so it's just been an incredible opportunity to work with so many campuses and community engaged partners across the state on identifying our common priorities and common challenges in student success, and then really just bringing us together to figure out what do we want to do together. I will pass it over to my colleague, Tracy.
Hey everyone, my name's Tracy Teeter, and I have the pleasure of working with Lily and Olivia at the Kentucky Student Success Collaborative. I lead our adult attainment work, and so basically what that means is helping adult learners access, enroll, re-enroll, persist, and attain their post-secondary goals for themselves and their families. Um, and student basic needs, of course, is um, directly related to the work we do with adult learners. So excited to be here, and I will pass it, Olivia, to you.
Okay, yeah. Hi, good morning. I'm Olivia Morse Bush, and I'm a research fellow for Student Basic Needs with the Collaborative. My work entails working on research briefs, using data to inform our student basic needs strategy and how we can partner with our campuses to help understand, our needs of students and how we can guide interventions. And I'm so open to talking with any of you all offline too about your ideas when it comes to data or just partnerships. We're doing a lot of awesome work at the Collaborative with data, and it's a lot of moving pieces, so I'm always open to collaboration, perspective, insight, feedback, and all those things. But I'll pass it to Sarah Brady.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Sarah Brady, president of FSH Works, the Workforce Development Division of Family Scholar House. Um, we do a lot of different things. Majority of people know us for our housing component that we have that's headquartered in Louisville, Kentucky. But we do a lot of work across the state of Kentucky, but also across the nation, in supporting students with non-academic barriers and keeping them enrolled in school and towards their degree path, but also just pushing them towards self-sufficiency. Um, in my role specifically, I do a lot of data analysis as well, Olivia. We Data is the backbone of all of the things that we do, but I also get to work very closely with our lobbyists and our legislature to really work to make sure and advocate for our participants and students in our universities and in our colleges to really make sure they understand the impact that decisions that they are making have on those who are trying to change their life. And I will pass it to Lamont.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lamont Campbell. I am the Director of Regional Programs for FSH Works, who gives all the data to Sarah. So she gets to analyze me. No, in addition, I also sit at BCTC. And so within that, I get to help our students directly. In addition to all of that, I get a chance to go across the state and share this program statewide and possibly getting regional coordinators at all 16 schools. That's my eventual goal. Sarah, I tell you, I'm super passionate about that. Again, it's all about retention. It's all about showing up for the students and meeting them at their needs. I've had a chance to work with Lily on the collaborative now for almost 3 years now. So we've been working, and any place I'm needed, I try to show up for. So I will pass it to Matthew. I'm just going down the list, Matthew. Sorry.
Hey, no worries. Hey, everyone. I'm Matt Strother. I'm with KCTCS, where I'm the Director of Access and Success Initiatives. In my portfolio, I have the Ready to Work program, the TANF KTAP program, SNAP E&T, some foster care grants, and I'm also the liaison for the connectors that are placed on our campuses through KCPA. So great to be here.
Yeah.
Now, I will pass it on to if Chris is available. I'll pass to him. He might be driving to a meeting. So if not,
Trying now.
hey, there
Can
you
you hear
are.
me? All right. Yeah, I couldn't figure out my on-off switch on mute. Correct. I am in the car on the way to Sky CTC. Thanks, Matt. I'm Chris Etherington. I also work at the KCTCS System Office. I'm the System AVP of Student Enrollment Engagement and Success. Been at KCTCS for, I don't know, 6.5 years. Our little area does, well, I support the KCTCS mental health strategy with Lily and the Student Success Collaborative and the statewide strategy. We also support our advisors and our engagement folk and our veteran services folk and things in that world, as well as a bunch of technology stuff that lives in my world. So apologies, I cannot see the list. So if someone would kindly popcorn to the next person, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Liz, do you want to go?
Hey everybody. I just arrived at my building, so I will change over to my computer in just a second. I'm Liz Todd Byron. I'm at Bellarmine University. Lily is actually the person who brought me out of the K-12 setting to Bellarmine to start the Center for Community Engagement. Anyway,
Liz, you just can't get rid of me.
I love it. And Olivia has been amazing to work with. We're on the SHEHO statewide work for this data collection. So that's been great. But at Bellarmine, I oversee the Center for Community Engagement, Career Development Center, Student Activity Center, and Orientation Programming. So our incoming class this year was 55% Pell recipient, which is everything to why I'm so focused on student basic needs and running the food pantry and clothing closet and emergency aid, etc. So glad to be in this group.
Allison?
Sorry, that took a second. I'm Allison Cernolka. I'm an associate director in campus recreation at EKU. Since I started my role about 4 years ago, recreation has been incorporating wellness a lot in our programming. I work really closely with the Dean of Students, Dr. Vance, who does a lot of work with CPE, and that's kind of how I got to where I'm at right now. We do a lot of work with student health and student conduct, just addressing basic student needs and doing wellness programming. And is there anyone else?
Carol.
Hello, everybody. This is Carol Atkins. I'm Director of Community Engagement and Outreach at Kentucky Primary Care Association. And I've been with them since 2019 and direct the community health worker connector programs, social determinants of health need, that type of thing. Work with the lady who does our peer support specialist within our clinics, federally qualified health centers, community health centers, rural health centers, And we are working with the state to provide connectors now in our colleges and BCBS offices and across the state. So nice to meet you guys.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I was like flipping around on my screens, but I did want to look at my list to see who else is also part of this guiding team who's not able to join us today. So we have Katie Adamczyk, who's the Executive Director of Student Success at the University of Louisville. And I think I mentioned that Sarah Young from Gateway Community and Technical College was not able to join. So they are also a part of this leadership group for our basic needs strategy. And I also wanted to let you know we have 6 senior fellows for student basic needs. And those are actually part-time roles that work with CPE in the collaborative 10 to 20 to up to 99 hours a month, just depending on what projects they want to take on. And those folks include Autumn Bishop, who works with Gear Up Kentucky, Stephanie Love, who was with UK and I believe is now transitioning to Berea, Deidre Robinson with Moorhead, Emily Sutton with WKU, Jessica Kern with Maysville Community and Technical College, and also Laura Vance, the Dean of Students at EKU. So this is an incredible team. Our guiding team and our senior fellows together are really helping us like guide the strategy for basic needs, and then senior fellows really boots on the ground helping us implement. So so excited to have such incredible campus engagement in this work. Let me go back to this lovely deck. Okay, so thank you for the introductions, just kind of grounding us a little bit in our strategy. And Olivia, if you don't mind throwing the basic needs strategy into the chat, the link from the website, that would be great. But of course, the work of all of our areas at CPE are focused on our 60 by 30 goal to increase educational attainment up to 60% of our working age population by 2030. When we are looking at our special population in Kentucky, our specific population, we know that a majority of our students come from low-income backgrounds and are pursuing post-secondary education to improve opportunities and earnings and overall change their lives, like you said, Sarah. Our strategy focuses on 2 main objectives. That's to increase access to basic needs supports for our current college students, and then also to increase access to post-secondary education for individuals receiving state supports. And so that is a 2-pronged strategy, and I think it allows us to be very comprehensive in our vision and our work across the state. Our guiding team specifically has a few important roles. I just kind of say our guiding team serve as, they help us prioritize our strategy work. They help us problem solve when we run into challenges and barriers. And they also help us promote the work of our statewide strategy across our campus partners and community partners in Kentucky. So those are your 3 main charges. We are going to meet monthly for an hour. And so that is a commitment that I hope works with your schedule. I am not actually the leader of the basic needs strategy. One thing that is very important is that Ariane Jet Seals is our associate director who leads our basic needs strategy. And she just has been out on medical leave for about a month and a half or so. And so I've stepped in and I'm just kind of keeping our ship a-sailing until she is able to return. So I'm very excited for that, but I am so passionate about student basic needs that, you know, this is certainly, I'm very, very passionate. So I'm very excited to be able to kind of dive a little bit deeper into the work for the next however long it takes. So like I said, it's about a 1 hour a month commitment. The way that we do guiding teams, which we have for all of our strategy areas at the collaborative, is we don't really want to give you homework. It's not, you know, you are not doing this as a paid job for the collaborative like the senior fellows are. We will give them all the homework. And so if you have homework requests, a data question, you'd like to see some research on X, Y, or Z, or you'd like a scan of who's doing what on a thing, those are great ideas to bring up. And then we can kind of work with our senior fellows to help us get that information and resources to this guiding team to help inform our work. I do, though, always want to invite your feedback. And so you are key partners in this work. And so we will be able to review active projects, probably in meeting as much as possible. But then if you think this is really something I'd like to share with other colleagues, or I think we should get more insight, more feedback from other key stakeholders, say the word and feel free to pass things along. We welcome all feedback, and it's incredibly crucial that we have feedback from campus partners on our work. The real kind of near future task of this guiding team is to help us come up with the next great grant proposal for ECMC. I think that their 3-year grant to us was about 1.5 million to kick off our basic needs strategy work. And we are doing a ton of amazing work with that funding. But I think that they're very impressed with Kentucky, and they have invited us to submit a what's next proposal. So that's very encouraging. We'll talk a little bit more about that. I've got 2 key projects I just want to do a high level overview with you on, and also in the deck that I'll share back after the meeting, you'll have links. So if you want to look in further, or if you want to pass it along and say, this is really something you should get your eyeballs on, please do. So as you know, we have a communications project that is a part of our first ECMC grant. We are doing this in partnership with the Hope Center, which is a national leader in basic needs work. They're incredible. This communications project came out of, it's one of the top things in our strategy to work on. And this project kind of hits multiple priorities within the strategy. One is we want to increase awareness and decrease stigma around accessing basic needs supports. And in doing that, some of the best, most impactful ways of doing that is student testimonials. And so we are gathering students who are willing to share their experiences. We have 10 campuses that are partnering with us on this comms project and are receiving a $15,000 grant to help provide us some resources, support, and feedback. So there's a whole network of communications folks that are advising on this project. And so those 10 have each committed to 3 student testimonials. So that's about 30 students that we already have. We want to engage even more, though. So this is an open invitation for any students that you know who may be interested in sharing their story and helping raise awareness and reduce stigma for basic needs. We have one more kind of hopefully easy access opportunity for recording a testimonial, and that's at our Student Success Summit, which is in Louisville, March 23rd and 24th. Students can attend the summit for free if they want to, or they can just come by for a video interview with the Hope Center. And I will be able to send kind of, if you have students to pass this along to, they could sign up directly for an interview spot. We are also working on a kind of basic needs landing page for the Collaboratives website that we will be able to provide as a template for any campus in Kentucky that would like to kind of review how they are communicating basic needs supports to students and potentially adopt it or adapt it or not use it at all. It's totally a choice, but we are excited to have kind of the Hope Center design a best practices basic needs webpage for us. One other component of that webpage is going to be access to an AI kind of search engine or tool called Beacon. And we are working with the Family Scholar House on a partnership that will allow this to really dive deep. Of course, the primary resource is the myky.info website and all of the vetted community-based resources that are included in that tool. But it will also include campus websites to be able to search campus basic needs resources as well. So this webpage, this search tool is live. It is still in our testing phase, so we are not like really promoting it, but people can check it out and kind of give feedback on questions that maybe it didn't answer quite right. You know, the tool is obviously going to learn through being utilized. And then the final piece of this project is a trusted sources training. You know, one thing that we learned from our student voice research project in our early phases of this strategy development was that students go to the people they trust when they have a basic needs concern. And so we wanted to make sure that the people that they trust, their English professor, the, you know, woman who works in the food service line, the RA on their floor, you know, basically whoever that person is that they trust, we wanted them to have a basic needs 101. Here is basic needs. Here are some of the issues. Here's how a student may experience them. Here's how you can help a student if they're coming to you and you don't feel like you're the expert. You can either do a warm handoff to your connector, to your campus point of contact, to your Family Scholar House regional director, regional program manager, whatever. However, we want to identify that warm handoff, that's going to be one pathway. Another option for our trusted sources training is going to be the web page template / beacon tool. So we are, I'm excited to kind of close that loop. We'll also have student testimonials that'll be a part of the training itself to give our campus partners and stakeholders a really strong understanding of that student experience. Okay, before I move on, any questions and thoughts on the communications project and kind of where we are and what's next? We will be doing a webinar for everyone once these resources and materials are finalized. And so I think the deadline for these deliverables is the end of June. And so it'll probably be an early fall webinar where we really start promoting and giving all of the collateral to campus partners for integration or review. So this is one of the big pieces of our ECMC grant right now. And so just kind of thinking, okay, we're going to wrap this up by December. What else is maybe a next step if we want to continue building on communications, or if like, great, we have done this. This is a great resources. Let's get started here with just what we have. And now we can pivot and focus on a new priority. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Another project that several of you are a part of, I know Liz is on the Basic Needs Data Academy, Carol's on the Academy, Olivia is leading the Academy. This is kind of the goal of how can we better leverage basic needs metrics, both at the campus level and statewide, to improve our supports for students. I'm going to be sending you a lot of, docs that you are welcome to review, but we do have a team that is really kind of in the weeds on many of these topics. A couple of things. So we are working on key terms and definitions. We would like to operationalize definitions for all of our campuses across Kentucky so that when we say emergency aid, this is what we mean. I'm pretty sure that it does mean different things in different places, and some people will help pay a tuition bill with emergency aid, and others will only cover non-tuition related expenses. And some folks have, okay, it can't be a recurring expense that I'm covering, like that's your financial planning that we need to work on. But if it's an emergency, like it's an unexpected expense, maybe I'll cover that. So there's a lot of questions that we just want to have a standard definition that allows us to better understand students that are receiving emergency aid, apples to apples, and then what are the outcomes or the impact of that aid on their retention and success. So these are the key terms I've just put up here. And we are still in the drafting phase of the definitions. So welcome thoughts or feedback if you'd like to provide it. And then we just had a meeting yesterday to talk about the metrics assessment, and it was really exciting because it really has asked us to think blue sky. If you had unlimited resources, unlimited capacity, no privacy constraints. Well, I don't know about that one, but identify the constraints that you have so that we can start thinking about how it could look to really measure student needs over time, assess the impact of the supports that we're providing, and lead that proactive outreach so that, you know, a student isn't already in crisis by the time we learn that they need some assistance. Really excited about this project and how it's going to connect to, this is separate from ECMC, but it's very connected, because for our ECMC grant, we said that we were going to develop basically a first in the nation, best in class data dashboard for student basic needs, because we have such an incredible data system in Kentucky. So we're really going to show folks what we can do when you can connect, you know, K-12 to post-secondary to employment and earnings to basic, you know, benefit access, you know, and other things that, you know, we can continue exploring. But obviously having key terms and definitions will be very helpful and important in that work as well. Any thoughts, questions related to this project update? So what I will say is that, let's say that we come together and we decide on a term or a definition for emergency aid. That doesn't necessarily mean that our campuses are going to have to change their definition, but it does mean that we will probably be tracking according to that definition. So a campus can have a more broad or more narrow focus, but we will probably, with CPE, especially emergency aid, that's the reason I'm bringing that one up. We need to know, like, how is emergency aid impacting student success? And so you can still distribute it however you'd like, but there will probably be some tracking requests that are specific to the definition so that we know we have apples to apples when our public institutions are reporting. Okay, I wanted to give a little high level on the ECMC grant. And if you didn't know, the president of ECMC is coming to Kentucky for the Student Success Summit, and he's our opening keynote. So that is a great sign. And of course, like, Dr. Thompson is buds with him. And so they, I think that it's looking good for our next request, but it'll be very helpful to hear from him. What are the priorities of the ECMC Foundation, and how does he kind of want to see that continue to grow in the next phase of their work? He's a relatively new leader for the foundation. But their goal is to eliminate gaps in post-secondary completion by 2040. They focus on removing barriers, building organizational capacity, and transforming our post-secondary ecosystem. I'm pretty sure they stole all of this from our website. No, I'm just kidding. But that is also, like, the same goals as the collaborative. You know, we really focus on building the capacity of our campus partners to lead transformative change. We have an ecosystem approach to understanding how it is not a single thing, it is a systems thing. And the way we work together is incredibly important to our success. And then, of course, there are so many barriers that, you know, it could be a process that is the institutional barrier that the student has to continue to navigate and basically swim upstream trying to figure out. And so how can we improve our processes to remove these barriers for students? If you look at their key focus areas, this is maybe some clues for where we might want to think about going next. They talk about supporting career and technical education, obviously basic needs, and student-centered strategies, which is another huge priority of the way we work in Kentucky. Strategic priorities, removing barriers, building capacity, transforming the ecosystem, long-term impact. Then we'll invest in us to drive systemic change. So I really think we can speak to that. You know, we have KPCA, the community college system, public and private. We have community-based organizations. Very, very excited about our already systems approach to the basic needs work. And, you know, one other component of basic needs, they also have a rural impact initiative. And so if we're interested in looking at any kind of specific areas of Kentucky where we want to focus some resources and supports, that's another opportunity. I know they also have a parenting student initiative. And so that is certainly, it's separate from basic needs, which is interesting because we have used their first grant to support our childcare solutions work. But it is also its own big bucket, as it should be. Any thoughts or questions about the ECMC priorities? Okay. I'm going to go very quickly through the next slides because I want to get to the ideation. But I just wanted to provide you a little bit of an update on our strategy work. So big picture, 4 out of the 4 recommendations in our strategy, we are already moving forward here in this first objective. So all of these have work that's moving forward. It is not all funded by ECMC, but one of the things that we asked ECMC for was to support our backbone organization. So they're funding Ariane and Olivia's positions, which drives the whole strategy. And so that's a real kind of bang for your buck investment, because we're not even using their grant dollars to, on our basic needs screening or reviewing our public benefit plans. So these first 3 are work that we're doing with other organizations that is receiving some kind of other shared resources to support it. But Ariane and Olivia are the backbone support that is helping that work continue. This 4th priority around the training and ongoing PD for our campus partners, that is directly hopefully something that we hope to check with our trusted sources training. Developing the training is not the end of that project, though. We need to get people trained. And so that's really our metric for success, that this resource is now being able to be shared with our campus partners. Within objective 2, this is where there is some opportunity for ideation. We have a gigantic strategy around childcare solutions that Tracy leads. And so that is some great work. We have 5 campuses that are doing a system redesign project for childcare solutions. So really excited to learn from them and then hopefully increase enrollment and completion of parenting students at those campuses, but with a childcare solutions toolkit and other like a webinar that'll help folks learn what happened. And do we want to use this as a kind of a baseline and a model to scale? And that's a part of our ECMC proposal, is we want to scale what we've learned through our childcare solutions work. We have had several conversations around this partnership between DCBS and other workforce agencies and our post-secondary partners. And how do we improve that pipeline flow? We have basically most of our individuals on our campuses, at least, so this was early on, we had a couple of SNAP ENT campuses, but they felt like they didn't get a strong referral for individuals that had to fulfill an employment and training requirement. They weren't being referred to KCTCS programs, which are largely the ones that are approved for ENT. They were being funneled into the kind of screening agency's own programs that they had. And so this just didn't seem to be like a good ROI for campuses to invest in the capacity to offer ENT programming. So we're trying to, that's an opportunity. It still is a really important population of folks. And we do really believe in the value of post-secondary credentials to help individuals do more than I think some of the other training programs may offer as far as outcomes go. But there are other kind of challenges to the to making it all work smoothly. But it could be a really good area to dig deeper into. One of this other green star of the training for facilitate training and information sharing among post-secondary government and nonprofit partners to focus on outreach to target populations. So just like it's nice to have connectors on our campuses because they know everything there is to know about benefits, it's really nice to have folks in the community that know about access to post-secondary education. And so Tracy worked with our partner SOVA on developing kind of a higher ed 101, which is just what you need to know if you're having a conversation with somebody and they may be interested in exploring post-secondary opportunities. I think it's a really great training. We have to figure out, I think through partnership work, we'll have more opportunities to expand who's able to or who participates in the training, but we do have the resource. And then finally, the folks that are communicating about post-secondary opportunities, they need some tangible collateral to really help them with this pitch or with these opportunities. And so we had a great conversation, and DCBS really identified we need these post-secondary program maps that are easy to understand and can make a compelling case for SNAP clients to participate. And that would be across the state and for all programs that, especially ones that receive the Work Ready Scholarship, so that there's not a tuition barrier for individuals to enroll. So that's kind of where we are there. As you know, we also have some critical success factors for our strategy. Infrastructure, that's y'all. The asset map of resources, which is heavily Family Scholar House, myky.info, and then adding the AI agent on top of it for really smart searching and referrals, a communications plan and media toolkit. Hope Center is delivering that for us, and then data. And so both our data dashboard, the research briefs Olivia's working on, and our data academy work is really going to strengthen our ability to measure the impact of the work that we're doing. Whew, okay, I knew it was going to take a minute, but I did just want to kind of level set us. And the priority populations that we're really focusing in on, adult learners who have had a recent upswing in enrollment, which is incredible. But they also had a 10-year decline prior to the last 2 or 3 years of positive gains. So a really important population for us in Kentucky, both first-time adults as well as returning adult learners with some college no credential. And then also our students from low-income backgrounds, students receiving a Pell Grant. We've seen increases in the proportion of our students that are receiving Pell Grants. 59% of KCTCS students this academic year is 24-25, and about a third of our public university students. We don't collect financial aid data from our ICU schools. And so unless I could probably go on your website, Liz, and see the 55% for your incoming class, but it's just not something that CPE has at the state level for everybody. So, I'm going to just stop sharing, but this is where we have the next 20 minutes to react, respond, ask questions. My only goal today is to just throw everything out onto the table, all of your wildest dreams, some of the big questions you might have, what keeps you up at night, where do you think Kentucky needs to go? All right, so that's where we are. And I know Olivia is going to take all of the notes, and of course we have a recording too. So what do you guys think?
So real quick, if you don't mind, can I just give an update on some of the KCTCS grants that work with DCBS and kind of where we're at on them right now?
Perfect.
So we're in our 2-year grant cycle. So KCTCS has gone back in and we're resubmitting for our foster care grant, which is changing, the SNAP ENT grant, and also the Ready to Work grant for the KTAP side. Obviously, with everything going on in the legislature, who knows what some of the outcomes of that is going to be. But especially on the SNAP ENT, DCBS was funding us 100% on SNAP ENT, and few months ago, they let us know that they would not be able to do that any longer, that we would be moved to a 50-50 partner. KCTCS did decide to go ahead and fund that 50%. So out of our general funds, we're going to pay for half of the SNAP ENT program, assuming it gets approved, which I think shows a lot of commitment from the college presidents to continue forward with that, especially with some of the reviews of how it's gone so far. But we have seen a significant increase in SNAP referrals since the work requirements have changed, and everybody in the state now essentially that's getting SNAP is required to do it. We're still struggling a little bit with that conversion of the folks being referred to us of actually getting over and enrolled either into adult ed or those eligible programs. But it has increased a lot, which is feeling like some good news.
That's good
On the
momentum.
ready, yeah, on the ready to work side of the KTAP side of the house, our numbers are as high as they've ever been. We are up 10% over last year, and then I think it was 40% from the year prior to that. We are at some of the highs in ready to work that we haven't seen for 15 years. So that program is still very strong. For the foster care side, and I don't know how into the weeds you guys want to hear about this, but I'll move quickly. We had a Chafee grant, which are those former foster youth that were attending KCTCS that has going to be ending on June 30th. But we have applied to take over some of the foster care Chafee grant that UK had, that the department decided to move away from UK. It is somewhat similar to Ready to Work, but not exactly. But where that is leading me to is when you're talking about DCBS and a lot of the slides, are we speaking mostly for family support, or are we also talking with the protection and permanency and foster care side of their house?
So sometimes I just say Cabinet for Health and Family Services because like our connector partnership is through Medicaid or a different acronym. And I know that our SNAP E&T work is in partnership with DCBS. And we have, Andrea Day is engaged in the parenting student work and things like that. So there's different aspects of DCBS. But no, we are not connected to the foster programs. Thank you, Carol. I should know that. To the foster programming side of it. But this is really wonderful timing, I think, to consider that as a potential important population, as a component of our next ECMC grant, or just strategy work in general. You might know that at the Student Success Summit, Miss Kentucky is a keynote for us, and she's a sophomore at UK, former foster kiddo, who's majoring in social work, and I hope will really inspire across our state a real focus on success of students or kiddos who are formerly in foster care. She said that the bachelor's completion rate of children formerly in foster care is about 3%, and it is the lowest completion rate for any demographic. So that's just, and we have a very high proportion of children that experience the foster care system. So would love to add that. Thank you for that update, Nat. And if you have any other ideas or anybody wants to, ping pong off of that, I have energy. I have energy for that. Anybody else? I don't mind just going around the room too and asking for initial thoughts and responses, like with your organizational hat on. I don't know, Sarah and Lamont, if you don't mind, kind of key work happening at Family Scholar House, or kind of what you'd really want to see happen next at a state level.
Yeah, just speaking from a boots on the ground perspective, having visited Maysville, having been to ECTC, Big Sandy, sitting every day at BCTC, having met with JCTC, yes. The emergency fund is going to be something that's going to be it's got to be priority one for our students, for retention, for everything across the board. I've talked to Dr. Feeney a million times about our emergency fund and the impact that it has in retention. One of the stats that I give in presentations is, the number of participants, the number of students that I've worked with. But the bigger picture from that number is that if that number is 300, the household size is 950. And that impact is so much greater in helping that student be retained in school because they're no longer worried about what's behind them as far as their kids, their roof, their food, everything beyond that. And that's all been beneficial because of the emergency fund. Yeah. So I think that's priority one in retention across the state. I'm sure across the country, but I don't think the country.
I'll just echo a little bit and kind of build off of Lamont. Like we we do everything we can to support through our existing emergency fund. But some of them are very specific. You know, they're specific for certain areas and counties and different things like that. And we often see times where, you know, there's a lot of academic requirements to be eligible for an emergency fund, which, you know, I understand needing to be, you know, enrolled full time or even needing to be have completed a certain number of hours within an institution. But then it comes down to, oh, well, you must have a 3.0 GPA or a 3.5 GPA. And it's like, maybe they don't have that GPA because of whatever the barrier is that they're experiencing. But a big thing that Lamont and his team really, I think they do a really good job of is if we are able to fund them some sort of resource for emergency funding, whether it's through their college emergency fund, our fund, you know, other agencies within the community that have funding for different things. Is we've really tried to not just put the not just put the band-aid on it of like, okay, well, we've connected you to a rental assistance program or we've connected you to a utility assistance program or whatever it is. But like, how can we have a deeper conversation so that way when, you know, rent is due in a month or your utilities are due again in a month, that we're not in the same scenario and that we're having conversations about budgeting and different things and really getting at the source to why things are happening, rather than just surface level of, oh, I'm in crisis, I'm experiencing, you know, or facing eviction, and that's the only thing that I can think about. But also, you know, you are working a part-time job, you have childcare, and you're not receiving a childcare subsidy, all of those different things. So just thinking bigger picture and not just at the immediate need as well.
Mm. I think there's so much potential with that. One of the things that we have started doing because we identified emergency aid is like a black hole. Like we have no idea. And some campuses have a good idea, but some don't have a good idea because there's so many decentralized emergency aid funds on their campus. So even though they might each know, it's the system doesn't know, as in that institution. So we are doing process mapping right now it's a pilot, but we have done it with EKU, and next up we're doing it with U of L, and we're trying to really document for ECMC what is a best practice process for distributing emergency aid, tracking emergency aid, following up with students that receive emergency aid, and really understanding the impact of emergency aid on retention. And so huge opportunities there. When I mentioned this to a program officer, she was like, can I fund you right now to do this? And I was like, whoa, lady, like I can't, no, we're good. We'll do it like a pilot, but then I think that there's a lot of interest. She said, we're not really funding emergency aid pots of money right now because people aren't tracking it the same way and we aren't knowing what the real impact is, but they do want to fund our system. They want to fund us in system redesign and process improvement. And I think that we could provide an incentive for campuses that want to participate in this to have funding go to an emergency fund. So like the sub grant would be 30K or whatever it is for a campus that is willing to go through a system redesign process for emergency aid and ultimately kind of pull into a statewide reporting. Love it, Liz.
Yeah, if you want to connect about that, we do a lot of work with our own fund, but we also manage a couple of schools' emergency funds as well for
Yes,
them.
you
So we can
do.
definitely connect about that.
Okay. Excited about that.
Can I
Liz?
chime in? Sarah, I'm wondering like what the threshold is. We did some research on this at one point, but like Bellarmine is only able to offer because our pot of money is strictly from gifts, you know, day of giving, Tuesday giving. So we can only offer $400 to a student, which like might not even touch where they're at. So what are you all at?
So we're at 500, and a lot of that is specifically for like tax purposes and them not having to do a 1099. But what we and what Lamont and his team does is they're looking at, okay, are you involved in a church? Can a church provide a portion? Like, what portion can you provide? And so, like, how can we like braid different things together to get to the higher dollar amount, but also, really truly using our funds, the school funds, as last dollar to really tap into any community resources before tapping into those dollars. I will say more often than not, majority of our awards are under $400. Most of them are around would you say what, 250,
250,
275?
300. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right around that window.
Okay, that's helpful. Because what is the threshold for the 1099?
I think it's like 601 technically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Carol, do you have any thoughts from KPCA and our connector work together?
I shared with you, well, we started this meeting. I'm very sorry that I didn't get to you earlier. Excuse me, my voice is bad. We have a new format for our Connector Success Story, and the second page of the March edition has Gateway featured Tammy Wade. If you want to pull it up, you were sharing, so I don't want to try to share anything, but
Am I still sharing? I'm not still sharing.
are you not? Do you want me to share it?
Oh, feel free. Yeah. Do I need to make you a?
Let's see.
Oh, good. There you are.
Can you guys see that? So,
Oh, now I just see your like our faces. But I think if you minimize or
oh wait,
I was gonna
I
say I
saw
can
for a
see
second, it might be right
I,
behind.
I
Or
can
is
see
that
it.
just me?
I think it's
Oh, it's
working
just
for you,
me.
Lily. Yeah.
Sorry.
okay. All right. So it's Tammy Wade at Gateway, and it was a student that had come to her for help. And are you guys able to see that? The writing on that?
I can see it.
Okay. All right. Then I won't read or anything, but I don't think Sarah got to make it today, but Tammy Wade has been a connector since 2013, and she really loves her position at Gateway and working with the students. But we wanted to share the success story with you. But we're trying to highlight, the student success and working with them, and so we shared that out with Lily, and if she wants to share that with you guys, that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Lily.
Thank you. Liz or Allison, Chris, did y'all have any other thoughts or priority ideas?
I was going to chime in, just in Louisville, TARC prices went up. So transportation, just a consideration for all of our local area. The prices went up on Monday. So that continues to be a barrier. So I didn't know if people were tracking that. And the bus routes are going down in August, how many they offer around the city. So because of
Do
a
you
budget
know,
crisis.
Liz, how many of your students have TARC as primary transportation?
All of our cards are always checked out, and we offer 30 cards. And that's just like the ones who know about that service, but they're all checked out anyway. You know what I mean? So yeah, we have a lot of students using TARC. And so I was sharing also for my friends at KCTCS, like the local, if that's impacting your students, or
Well,
it's going to.
transportation, not just TARC, but transportation is a significant basic needs
Right.
barrier. And I think that would be really interesting to look at that both from a rural and an urban perspective, for addressing a transportation basic needs barrier. And that's not something that we have done. I know that Trellis offers a specific transportation survey. So it's just the module on transportation, but it's a little bit of a deeper dive that could help us do kind of a current state picture. If campuses were interested in administering that. Yeah, we would be very student-centered in our approach to understanding student challenges with transportation, what they would say is an ideal solution to help them meet their needs and attend classes. I think that could be that's definitely an untouched area.
Yeah.
Let's see, I know we're really close to time, 9:58. Okay, we have 2 minutes. Allison, Chris, anybody else with final thoughts?
Really, I was just, when we were talking about the emergency fund, well, I wasn't talking, I'm listening, still driving. I was curious about changes to Pell and the last dollar focus. Well, for students that are on Pell, would an emergency fund that's routed through the institution simply negate their Pell with the new format? If so, it's just something to consider.
You know, Chris, one thing that we learned at EKU is that they do not apply emergency funding to that student's total cost of attendance. So it does not hit their student account in that way, that they would lose support in another area. And I know through the Family Scholar House, I think that's the whole point of also going through them as a third-party partner, to avoid some of the maybe financial aid implications or, you know, pieces of that puzzle. But EKU has documentation from the Department of Ed that is an appropriate way to track emergency aid funds. So we feel pretty good. No one's gonna be in an orange jumpsuit. But was that your question?
That was my question.
Okay. All right, Allison, any thoughts on connections, other wellness? I know that's kind of your big area.
It is. I'm still trying to define what that means for our campus because it's everything, you know. But I really like the project of emergency aid mapping and moving forward with that, because at the end of the day, funding is what they need. You know, that's where they run into barriers. Is I don't have the money for XYZ. So I'm really interested in continuing with this group and seeing what happens next.
Awesome. You know, one thing it just made me think of, and then I'll let you all go, is that one of the pieces of our SHIO data project is how can you prove the impact from your emergency aid interventions and services? And tracking data to prove the impact is a challenge. And so I think that it would be really interesting to take some of the work that we're really pointing to, as this is a universal intervention, like emergency aid is pretty much universal across our campuses. Connectors, Family Scholar House, navigators, basic needs coordinators, that is typically something everybody has. And so how do we track maybe the interaction of those folks to help students access benefits and other community-based resources as an intervention that works? And then maybe even tracking public benefits themselves, and how does receipt of a public benefit support student completion, which ultimately leads to economic mobility. I think that these would be really valuable questions to have a statewide data infrastructure that allowed us to know the proof of the impact of this investment. Hopefully to really make the case that we're sustaining connectors, we're scaling Family Scholar House partnerships across the state. We're doing more with SNAP ENT. All of these things are leading to the economic mobility of students or individuals. So, okay. I want to thank you all so much for your time. I'm really excited about our next steps. I'll send out our agenda next time. Will not need to go over all of the current state picture work. So we'll have a lot more time to kind of dive into some of these ideas and add more to the mix. So don't worry. All right. Well, thank you all. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks,
Bye.
Lily. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.